Think you can't spray your own bike frame? Well, think again. A couple of years ago, I taught myself how to spray my own bike frames, and I've been spraying them ever since. And today, I'm going to share with you my top tips for spraying your own bike frames. Let's go. So welcome to Project Sunrise Cycling. My name's Rahul, and a couple of years ago I taught myself how to spray my own bike frames. You're probably wondering why. Well, it was really because I bought a cheap carbon bike frame from AliExpress, and what I thought was going to be a plain matte black frame ended up turning out to be not quite that. It was just emblazoned with the word Twitter literally everywhere across the whole bike frame, and to be honest, it looked absolutely ridiculous. I started looking at what I could do. Could I get the frame wrapped? Could I get it sprayed? Could I get it even hydro dipped? And really, they were all quite costly options. So I thought, right, I'm gonna have to teach myself exactly how to spray my own bike frame. Just before we get into it, let me show you some of the designs I've created over the years. I've tried different things, used different paints and evolved the designs over the year, and I've really got in tune with what I love about my bikes. You'll find that if you do it a few times, you'll build your confidence very, very quickly, and eventually you'll find a design that works really well for you and something that you can be incredibly proud of. Bare frames are the easiest to work with, so obviously they don't have any components on them. You can get to all angles of the bike frame and give it a really clean spray. If you've got bike components, then I've always stripped the bike down, but there are examples where maybe you can't get the crank out yourself. You'll still be able to give your bike a spray by using masking tape or covering off things like the crank and various other bits. So don't be put off if you don't know how to strip a bike yourself. So getting a great result with a respray is all in the frame prep. What you're looking for is a really smooth frame that is going to help your paint just look really great. If there are any minor blemishes, chips, things like that, it all shows up in the finished product. So the frame prep is really key. Now, to prep a frame, it's a really good idea to sand it back. It depends what's on your frame already. You may have decals, there may be lacquer over the top of the decals, and you really want to strip it all back. If you can feel it's uneven and you can feel the decals when you run your finger across the frame, then you're going to probably see that if you spray over the top of it. I've sanded the lacquer back, I've sanded the decals off. Sometimes they'll peel off, but mine I needed to sand them off. Start with a coarse sandpaper and eventually get to a fine sandpaper. If you're doing that with a carbon frame, then please wear a face mask and try and do it outside, because you really don't want to be breathing that stuff in. And just take your time. You know, winter's a great time of the year to work on bikes that you want to spray up. You might not be riding a summer road bike, so just take your time, don't rush it, and just do it bit by bit. It'll take you a bit of elbow grease, and I've actually used an electric sander to sand my frames back. You may find that you've got some chips or dents or scratches in your frame that you might want to kind of fill. And one of the great products that I've used is a frame builder's putty from Spray.bike. Spray it on, you might need a few layers, you might need to build up the layers, and then sand it back, again with fine sandpaper, just so you get a really smooth finish on the frame. Now, you'll be really surprised at how easy it is to spray a frame. But one of the things that's really important is that you have it somewhere that's not going to make a mess. So spray paints in general will make a mess, they get everywhere, and I try and do it outside. So I'll hang my bike on a work stand. It does mean the work stand's going to get covered in spray paint, but you know what, it just keeps it clean. And if you do it outside in the summer, warm temperatures are really good because it helps the paint cure. It's not as thin, so you might not get as many runs, depending on what type of paint you're using. I have sprayed bike frames in the garage before, and with certain paints they can get everywhere. I'm waffling here, but definitely cover up your other expensive bikes and any of your husband or wife's important stuff, or you'll be in trouble. Now, these are the spray paints I use, and I've used a lot of spray paints over the years. I've used automotive paints, but Spray.bike make the best products that I've used. They're really easy to apply. They're kind of like a powder coat, and you'll notice if you get it on a work stand, it's very, very difficult to get off. But it's not too thin, it goes on really easily. It's very difficult to get drips unless you apply it too thick. And you know what? It comes in so many different colours, different finishes, and the hardest bit for you will be choosing which colour to go for. So they're pretty cheap, you know, they're about, I think about £12.50, maybe $15, $16 for a can, plus delivery. And that's a very cheap way of giving your bike a facelift. So by the time you've added in maybe a bit of sandpaper, maybe a bit of lacquer, and quite a bit of elbow grease, you can really change the look of your bike for about £30 to £40, which I think is fantastic when you compare it to the price of professional resprays. Okay, so let's talk about the technique. So the first thing you want to do is try and store your spray paints upside down. I find that way they don't separate, or they're easier to mix up. You want to give them a good shake. If you're using rattle cans, kind of auto sprays, you know, car sprays, things like that, give them a good shake for a couple of minutes. And then what I always try and do is give them a few test sprays, so just spray them in the air, and let them just flow properly. Maybe if you've used a spray paint before and have let it sit for a little while, then it can sometimes come out the first time and just like spurt everywhere, and it's going to make a right mess if it goes on your frame, so try not to do that. And then the technique is really simple. You probably want to hold it maybe about 12 inches from the frame when you're spraying, and just get long sweeping strokes. So try and keep your arm moving all the time. Don't try and do big areas. And believe me, less is more with spray paints. When you put too much on at a time, that's when you get drips. And if you do get drips, don't wipe them. Just let them dry and sand them back and spray over the top of them again. You won't notice if you do it that way. If you try and wipe them, you'll just mess it all up. Thank you so much for making it this far into the video. And if you're enjoying it, then please click the like button. If you want to see more cycling related content, then do subscribe to the channel. And if you just want to see pictures of hot bikes, then flip over to Instagram, where you can follow me at Project Sunrise Cycling. Now let's get back to spraying bikes. So yeah, build up the layers with your paintwork. Make sure you've got all the areas covered, and that might need you to rotate the bike frame on your work stand or whatever you choose to use a few times, just so you can cover off all the angles. You can't really hold a can of spray paint upside down and spray, so it's best to just let the frame dry, rotate it, and then work on the bit that you can't reach. That'll take you a few goes, and then you really want to leave it a good 24 hours for all the paint to cure and harden before you even think about putting any decals on, if that's what you want to do. I will do a video on applying decals. Again, I've learned the hard way that there's a real technique and skill to it. And you know what, with decals, you often only get one chance to get it right. Now, if you've just applied a normal spray paint, and particularly this Spray.bike spray paints, I found that they can be quite matte in look. So I always lacquer over the top of them, because that's the finish that I'm looking for, a glossy kind of transparent finish over the top of any colour. I think it looks great, and it just gives a bike a great sheen. So in the past I've used two different products. I've just used standard lacquers, and I find that they can be very, very thin, and you really have to take your time and build the layers up. A product that I love to use is the Spray.bike transparent finish, or top coat. You can get all different types of top coat from Spray.bike, and I just think they look great. You don't need many coats of them, and you can get them in all different types of finish. Now, once you've sprayed your bike, you've maybe applied any decals, you've lacquered it, it's all dry and cured. What I love to do is just put a top coat on them, and this one here is the Spray.bike Frame Builders Top Wax, and you can also get various different versions. This is a bike protection spray from Muck Off as well. Not only do they smell absolutely fantastic, but I don't advocate inhaling them, they just give your bike kind of a waxy finish over the top. It really helps protect the paintwork, but it just means that if your bike's getting muddy or covered in grease or anything like that, it's really easy to wash off. You know what? Once you've sprayed one bike frame, you'll very quickly become confident, and the next time you do one, you'll find yourself trying a fade, using more than one colour, or maybe even introducing a design. You can actually spray components pretty easily as well that get scraped or scratched over the year. So my pedals at the end of each year just look wrecked, and I just sand them back and give them a spray. I've also personalised my pedals in the past. Now, this is the 4th iteration of my bike. I don't for 1 minute claim that it is a branded bike. It's not. I just want to show people what's possible with these paints and these skills. I take a lot of pride from these bikes because they're skills that I've taught myself and they're developed over time. And I think now you'll hopefully agree that the bike I've created here looks professional, looks high end, and it's something that I'm really proud to ride. And if you're in any doubt about that, then let's take a look at the original Twitter bike frame and drop a comment down below and let me know which bike you'd rather ride. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope I've given you the confidence to at least try spraying your own bike frame. Maybe practice on something else first, a piece of metal or something that you're not going to worry about messing it up. Before long you'll find yourself really confident and you'll be able to spray your own bike frame too. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click like if you've enjoyed the video, and look out for more content. Thanks for watching.